Hello everyone, it is Sunday the 26th of March. Welcome back to the D3D4 football podcast dedicated to all things Leagues 1 and 2. We're at the end of March, we're in the midst of the March international break right now as we speak. England are just starting their World Cup qualifier against Ukraine at Wembley. Opportunity to make it 6 points from 6. And as usual with international breaks, we find that it does actually impact the League 1, League 2 schedule. I think we've got 7 games in total in League 1 to mention. 10 in League 2. It's always quite interesting to see how many people go away on international duty, sometimes with youth teams of the home nations. In the case of some, you get very far out places. I know that Miles Hippolyte of Stockport went out with Grenada. I think Liam Gordon of Walsall went off with Guyana. Michael Mancian of Burton Albion went off with Seychelles. It really is some far out places in the world that some of these lower league players get to, but it's an example, I think, of the growing quality that's there at this level. There's 4 of us here to run through the games that took place in the 3rd and 4th tier this weekend. It is myself, Edward Walker, joined by David Jenkin, James Richards and Harry Thomas. David, how's your week been?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. I've been taking part recently in a 100 miles in March challenge for Mind. So I'm about sort of 85, 90 in now. So just 10 miles to go.
Is that walking or running?
Well, anything, walking, running, whatever.
Crawling?
Well,
crawling 100. Times, you get money for crawling 100 miles, I bet.
At times it has to be said. But yeah, no, it's been good, man. And a good week overall.
Great to hear. James, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Oxford didn't play, so hey.
I didn't think that was coming.
Yeah.
All good. Harry, how about you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Just keeping a close eye on all the various rumours that are swirling around about who's coming in at Tranmere. And yeah, getting myself increasingly excited about people who won't be joining the club in the summer.
It's Ed, mate. Ed Walker is the new manager of Tranmere. It's just been announced.
I'm on it.
I take it, definitely.
I'm not sure you would, but anyway, a reminder before we get going, this podcast is in partnership with The Big Step, which tackles football's relationship with gambling. There is an excessive presence of gambling adverts within football, and The Big Step continues to do great work to raise awareness about the dangers of gambling and the impact it can have on so many people's lives. A big thank you as well to all of our Patreon members. Those who sign up for as little as just £1 per month can get access to our additional D3D4 daily podcast episodes throughout the week. They are produced by James and they focus in depth on individual clubs and provide previews to some of the most eye-catching fixtures in League 1 and League 2 each weekend. You can sign up for that now at patreon.com/D3D4 football. We will get this going and we'll begin, as always, with the world's best 3rd tier.
League 1.
League 1, 7 matches, as I said. We're going to kick this off with the game that took place only a few hours ago, actually. It was on Sunday lunchtime, live on Sky at the New Lawn. Forest Green Rovers 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0. This has to be one of the results of the season.
This is League 1 this is League 1 defined, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. This is a team that are rock bottom of the 3rd tier. They're winless under the new manager. They were winless in all competitions since the 10th of December. Playing host to what has been one of the top teams at the level, who prior to their defeat on Tuesday in an absolute thriller against Barnsley, had gone 23 league games without defeat. I don't think anyone saw this coming. This looked for Wednesday like the perfect opportunity to just lick their wounds, go again against what has just been undoubtedly the worst team in the division this season. What instead has happened this Sunday afternoon is an appalling performance from an Owls perspective, and part of that is a tactical masterclass from Forest Green Rovers, the hosts. I've felt pretty unsure about Duncan Ferguson, the manager, since he arrived at the New Lawn. I've never felt quite sure about what kind of level of tactician he actually is. His caretaker spells with Everton in the top flight, they always felt a bit like a case of kind of inputting a lot of passion and desire into his players that takes them up to a high level of performance. He had an interesting game plan for this match at the New Lawn, and you've got to say it's a massive feather in his cap because he absolutely nailed it. Forest Green line up for this game in a flat 4-2. It's spearheaded by Miles Peart-Harris and Charlie Savage up top. Neither of those two are strikers. They are both naturally midfielders. It's kind of weird to look at and try to make sense of. Then you see it in action at the game, and you suddenly realise why he's actually done it. The pair sit deeper than a normal front line would. There's a lot of intent to try and cut off passing lanes between the Sheffield Wednesday backline and into that midfield three that they've got. Got to mention, by the way, the great work that Harvey Bunker did alongside Dylan McGeoch in the centre. Brilliant performance from those two. The wingers for Forest Green in Jordan Garrick and Carl McAllister, they do such great work helping to just nullify the threat that Sheffield Wednesday's wing backs can provide, and then they're available to just spring forward when FGR do get possession. All intent from the Green Devils is to just lead Wednesday out wide, let them have the ball either in the middle of the park around the halfway line or out wide, away from the box. Anytime that ball does get delivered into the penalty area, it's normally a man in green and black who more often than not gets onto it. Brandon Cooper at the back, brilliant.
He was excellent, wasn't he?
In the centre of the defence. Adoka Godwin Leaf, those two, yeah.
As well.
Godwin Leaf is out of contract, by the way, at the end of this summer, and I'm just going to leave that there. Someone needs to keep him in League One because he's one hell of a player. Sheffield Wednesday, first half especially.
Text Liam Manning a second.
Sheffield Wednesday, first half especially, they just had no idea what to do. They had no idea how to cope with how Forest Green was setting up. When you're an opposition team and you've got Barry Bannon dropping deep to try and get on the ball, you know you're doing a job. He can't influence the game in the upper areas like he wants to when he's at his best. There is a golden chance in this game for Charlie Savage in the first half. FGR actually have a lot of the big chances in this game, especially compared to what Sheffield Wednesday had. And there's a golden one, as I said, to Charlie Savage that's well saved. FGR do get the lead through a well-worked move down the left-hand side. It's finished off by Jordan Garrick. Carl McAllister has a really big opportunity to make it 2-0 to Forest Green in the second half, and there's an outstanding stop from the foot of Cameron Dawson that actually denies him. Referee clearly missed it because he actually gave a goal kick when it should have been a corner, but I mean, you only really on the replays could actually tell, so I will let him off that one. Sheffield Wednesday do try to make changes to respond, but none of it works. They have really got to screw their heads back on and go again now. They are still in a favourable position. They've got a game in hand on Plymouth Argyle as it stands. They do go back to the top of the table if they do win that. That today, though, was atrocious by their standards. Massively below the level. They are clearly at the moment missing Josh Windass and George Byers, who are unavailable through injury. You can lose to Barnsley at Oakwell like they did on Tuesday. That's fine with the immense Thorn Barnsley, and I understand that. That today, though, completely inexcusable. They have really got to get back on track on Wednesday when they go to Cheltenham Town. They cannot afford to lose a third game in a row. SGR pick up what is just an outstanding victory over a promotion-chasing side, and I just wish it meant more for them than it does. They're so far adrift that what it means is that they're actually now 4 points from 23rd place Cambridge rather than 7. They're that far behind at the moment. I'm not going to get carried away here. All I will say is, well done Forest Green Rovers. Big well done to Duncan Ferguson. What a brilliant afternoon in Nailsworth. If anything does come from this, it's the greatest escape of all time. Really would be.
It would be, yeah.
Nothing more to add. Brilliant Forest Green. What a result. Probably the result of the season, if not right up there. Brilliant. David, we will stick down with teams towards the bottom and talk about an absolute demolition in Devon. Exeter City 5, Accrington Stanley 0.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to describe this, to be honest, Ed, is a reality check for Accrington about the situation they find themselves in here at the bottom of the table. In terms of Exeter, really, it was a very professional, very clinical performance from front to back. I mean, they limited Stanley to just 4 chances on goal and none of those coming on target as well. It just wasn't a good day for Accrington at all. With the first in the pick of the bunch for me coming from Dimitri Mitchell, a really lovely, well, I'd almost describe it as delightful. It was just
he's been a bit of an under the radar signing as well, hasn't he? I think he's done a good job since coming in.
I think so. It was just a delightful effort, to be honest. Just really nice curling shot. Almost the kind of thing personally that I'd like to, the only thing I can akin it to is when you score on FIFA, and it's one of those kind of.
I'd like to point out
goals.
as well, he's a left-footed player, and that's with his right foot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, really well taken from just outside the box, and to beat Lucas Jensen. The second coming just after the break from Josh Key. I mean, we have to talk about this as well. Who's put a pound coin in Exeter? Like, the touch here from Josh Key to get past Nolan was just so impressive. Just Will Ameson's ball straight to him. A touch that just brings him into the wider area, cuts inside and just drives at the goal. Probably have to say something about Accrington's defending here. But just, you can't take anything away from Josh Key here. Just brilliant touch. And did really well to drive towards the goal and finish it. I mean, the third of the fifth as well, coming from Sam Nombe. Bit of head tennis in the box. Lucas Jensen, with a nice initial save where it's hit the bar. He's tried to clear it out, but it's just fallen straight into the path of Nombe for a really simple tap in. Quite unlucky for him, to be honest, and certainly not his best game at all. If I'm honest, I was a little bit surprised to see him in goal rather than Toby Savin, who they've gone for more recently.
I was expecting Jensen to be suspended for this because he got sent off.
He had a 2-game suspension, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. It's either 3 or 1, isn't it?
If I remember, I'm trying to remember because he's had 2
Did
red
they
cards,
appeal
hasn't
it?
he? Was he sent off in this one for a handball outside the box, or was that the first one?
It was a trip of someone clean through and goals. It was a professional foul, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, against Portsmouth. So I was surprised to see him as well.
I mean, maybe they appealed it to get that reduced down, but I'm not sure.
Not sure that works. I don't know.
No, maybe not. It's a strange one. It's a good point you make there, and I hadn't really thought about it when I was making these notes, to be honest with you. But the fourth one came in from James Scott. A really nice 1-2 with Jay Stansfield here. Just kind of drives at the defence, plays across to Stansfield, who just plays it back in to James Scott in absolutely acres of space, and just, you know, you could have given him a year to finish it, and there wouldn't have been any Stanley players nearby him. It was just another really nice finish from just outside the box. The last one, and the most rumptious cheer from the crowd of all, was when Stansfield himself got the goal 9 minutes from time for his first goal in front of the big bank stand. And just in general, you know, just a very, very professional performance from Exeter. But it worries me here for Accrington. You know, 2 points behind Oxford, and I don't think they're going to have enough, especially not with performances like this. If they want anything out of this season, and if they want to get out of those positions, I don't know what you gents think, but
I thought what you said about a reality check is right, because we've assumed that John Coleman's such a good manager, he can get this Accrington team out of trouble, but they are dreadful. Like this is one of the poorest squads he's had to work with. His January transfer window was appalling, and they just are awful defensively, and they've still got a lot of players who are out injured or suspended. I mean, they've had suspensions nearly every week. Sometimes they've had 2 or 3 players suspended in a weekend, and it's basically leaving him with a threadbare squad lacking quality. I mean, he hasn't really got any out and out strikers to name, someone that you'd recognise, I suppose. I mean, you know, this is a far cry from the Colby Bishop, Dion Charles side that was so good. I mean, with Joe Pritchard going out as well with injury until the end of the season, Sean McConville's been a shadow of his former self this season. They're dreadful. And I do agree with you, David. I think big concerns. I mean, if they start this up, I mean, I don't see it at the moment.
They have more red cards in 2023 in League One than they do wins.
Doesn't surprise me.
That's really damning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's damning.
Wow.
It's damning, and I think this game is an example of it as well. And I think we'll touch on Accrington a bit later down the line as well, because it does look bleak for them at the moment. Definitely. Harry, really big game down the bottom between 2 relegation battlers. Milton Keynes Dons 1, Morecambe 0.
Yeah, obviously a huge result for both of these teams. I guess a huge result for Accrington as well. But this one was always going to be an interesting one to watch between the team with the worst home record in the league hosting the team with the worst away record. There's MK Dons, who've obviously come away with the all-important 3 points. And I think Morecambe now are in real trouble. I mentioned last weekend that Dons needed the points from this one. Their next 3 games are against Wycombe, Portsmouth and Derby. They're obviously all chasing those playoff spots. And you never know with this league, as we talk about a lot, but you wouldn't back them to take too much from those 3 games. But thanks to this win, they've now got themselves a 4-point cushion on 21st place. And so they've got a bit of breathing room, which should probably just about be enough to keep them out of that relegation zone, even when they come out the back of those matches. As most people probably would have expected, the game was decided by a single goal. That was scored by Jonathan Lecco after 57 minutes. The ball was looped over Donald Love, who missed his header, and it allowed Daniel Harvey far too much space and time to pick out Lecco in the middle, and he was able to just tap in his second goal for the club. Morecambe only managed 1 shot on target all game, and even then that was a long-range effort in the 63rd minute from Ash Hunter. By that point, they'd taken off ex-Premier League and Senegalese international players Oumar Niasse and Pape Souaré. So the free agent market does have the potential to provide the odd gem to a club at this time in the season, but neither of those two have set the place alight since joining Morecambe. I mean, you can see why they brought in Niasse especially. Goals are not at a premium in that squad. And I don't think he scored for them yet. And yeah, I think they both had a couple of half chances that they couldn't get on target, but they've not exactly come in and made a huge difference.
No, I do feel so sorry for Morecambe that lost Kieran Phillips. I think he was having such a good season, and it was ended with injury, and he was forming a good sort of partnership with some of the guys up front, like, you know, with Cole Stockton and that. But losing him, they just haven't been able to replace him. Mellon came in, and he's now out for the season as well. So yeah, these free agents, they're not gonna cut it, I don't think.
They've really not had the luck there, have they? And I mean, Cole Stockton just doesn't look like the same player that he was last season. He got, I can't remember exactly how many he got. I don't know if any of you know off the top of your head, but he's still only got 4 in the league so far this year. So it's really not looking good for them. Since winning their only away game of the season at Forest Green on the 17th of September, they've taken 3 points from 15 games. If their home form was solid, I think that wouldn't be such a big problem. But since they had that big 5-1 win over Bristol Rovers, they've only actually won one game, and that was just a 1-0. So again, it's not even another big convincing game. So it is very difficult to see a way out for this side. I think you can see it in Derek Adams' press conferences as well. He's clearly feeling the pressure, and he's kind of giving off the impression of a manager who's maybe run out of ideas and might be just starting to plan ahead for next season.
We've got to be careful when we do this of not being reactive, of not literally looking at the situation and changing it game on game, week on week. But
I agree, because we were all for Sheffield Wednesday having the title wrapped up, weren't we?
Yeah, and as well, you look at the bottom now, and you see those 4 in there, and it's difficult to have belief in them.
As an Oxford fan, I am delighted if it's those 4.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to try and defend Morecambe, I think I can more than Accrington. It's worth mentioning this time last year, Morecambe looked in deep trouble. The end of the March international break, and they suddenly just smashed it with a run of points. Do I really back that to happen to the same level again this year?
Yeah, it's a possibility, isn't it? But you look at the upturn in form of MK Dons.
They've had 3 favourable fixtures, and fair play to them, they've taken full advantage of them.
Yeah, exactly, and they've got themselves into the position they're in. But I mean, you could have said the same thing for Morecambe. This is a favourable fixture for them this weekend, and they've come away with nothing again. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not over, but hard to make a case for them at the moment.
It'd be the first time in a while, I think, the bottom 4 has looked as you'd expect it to, though, wouldn't it? In terms of size of clubs and the sort of nature of this division this season. Those 4 clubs, if any of them had stayed up, they'd have taken it, and they'd have done a good job. And it's just the nature, I think, of League One this season. It's brutal.
I want to believe there is a twist. I know James doesn't want to. I know James doesn't want to, but I want to believe that we're not wrapped up in March. I'm not having that. I want a twist. We'll see what comes, but. Yeah, not looking great right now for the teams right down the bottom. We'll move up to the top, and a huge one at London Road, James. Peterborough United 2, Derby County 0.
Yeah, I managed to watch this on the old Peterborough Player, I think it's called. And I don't know if this is just because the cameras were there for ITV, or whether this is like this every week. Maybe a Peterborough fan who listens can let us know. But they had loads of camera angles. It was really good presentation. It made iFollow look cheap and tacky. It was really good presentation. It was but their performance, Peterborough's performance in that first half, oh my goodness, it looked like an FA Cup game where you had a team in a different division, like say Derby in the Championship playing a League Two side. They were so dominant, Derby. They had Posh pinned back in their own half almost all that first half. But the problem for Derby was they created very, very little. And Peterborough did just enough last ditch challenges, just about getting the ball clear at the last minute to stop Derby getting any clear opportunities. I think Josh Knight gave the ball away in the corner, and they broke through to have a shot which was saved by Norris, but that was about it in that first half for Derby. And then fair play to Darren Ferguson, because he changed things up at half time. He brought on Butler to play as a left centre back, taking off Knight, and he went to a back 3. He also brought on Kwame Poku to try and play up front with Johnson, Clark, Harrison, just get them further up the pitch, a bit of a ball carrier, someone who can maybe take people on and cause them some problems. And it worked, because Derby's press was so good in that first half, and Peterborough were panicking. They had no time on the ball. They couldn't really make any passes stick. And second half was completely different. They looked a much better team. And they were rewarded with their efforts. Ephraim Mason-Clark in particular had a very good second half, and he was the one who scored that goal where he sort of cut in on his right, or looked like he was going to cut in on his right, went down the left channel and smashed it past the goalkeeper at his near post. I'm not sure the goalkeeper will be pleased to see that one back, but to be honest, it was a good finish, and it gave Peterborough the lead, and it just lifted the place. That was a sellout crowd, really good atmosphere. Derby fans making it a great occasion as well, all filling their away allocation. So it was really, really good match in that perspective. And then, Derby did huff and puff. They did have a few half chances, but again, they didn't really create a lot. And Peterborough sort of sealed the game when Nathaniel Better tapped home from a rebound to make it 2-0. And Peterborough have just got this momentum at the moment, which, a while ago, I think
we were done with them. I thought we'd said that.
Yeah. Well, this is how you're talking about us being quite reactionary. I think we are guilty of that. And I think a lot of people are quite guilty of that when they look at football matches, on a Sunday after the weekend. They've now won 3 in a row. they're really pushing the likes of, they're only a point behind Derby and Bolton, and they're looking extremely impressive in their own way. But, you know, that first half performance, it did look like it was going to be a typical Peterborough, get their fans' hopes up and then fall flat. But they you know, credit to Darren Ferguson, he did a really good job of tactically switching it up. A bit worried about Derby, though. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 5 away games, which is so poor for a team that's at this stage of the season trying to make sure they clinch at least a playoff spot. Not looking very good at all. It's only the second time they've had back-to-back defeats all season, and they've got Ipswich next. So there you go.
Ooh. Yeah, need a response from Derby, definitely. Charlton Athletic 1, Wycombe Wanderers 1. One immediate thing that stands out to me here, not a single substitution made by Charlton Athletic. The 11 that started this game at the Valley was the same one that ended it. Single change from last weekend. Stephen Sessegnon coming in at left back in the place of Tyrrell Thomas, who was away on international duty with St Lucia. I think naturally when you take that gamble of no subs and you don't end up with a win, you get a lot of questions asked. I've really tried to do some digging to try and find out why Dean Holden didn't change anything. First thing I'm going to say, there's not exactly much to Holden to choose from on that bench. The only defender available to him was 18-year-old Zach Mitchell. I think that speaks quite a lot to the depth that's actually available to him at Charlton Athletic at current.
Well, Luke Ness is out for the season with an ankle injury, which is which is a shame because he was playing quite a good partnership. I'm not sure, you know, when you've got Michael Hector, he's obviously had his injury problems in the past as well, and Ryan Ennis will get sent off at some point before the end of the season.
Yeah, probably. I believe he was just about to make changes actually to shore up that defence with them leading 1-0, and then Chris Thorina goes and equalises for a corner from Wycombe, which was awfully dealt with, by the way, by Charlton. Really poor defending from them. It completely throws that defensive plan out the window, and they just have to continue with what they have. Despite that, I think it was actually a fairly good performance overall from Charlton against a player chaser. Holden seemed quite pleased with the overall display, albeit the set-piece defending for that equaliser. They've still not won in 5 at the Valley, though. Not great. Miles Leaburn, I believe, has got more goal involvements than any other teenager in the Football League right now. He certainly feels a player who will be playing higher at the pyramid come the summer with the talent and the potential he's got at such a young age. Wycombe will certainly have enjoyed that Peterborough United result at London Road. They are probably still the outsider in this playoff race, inconsistent with results under Bloomfield, but got to be still believing as we head towards that run-in. David, to Fratton Park, Portsmouth 2, Port Vale 2.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not the best game that Portsmouth have ever played this one. You know, they managed to come back from a 2-0 deficit here, but absolutely far from a good half here, boys. You know, Vale opening proceedings in this first half. I mean, Conor Ogilvie intercepted Mal Benning's cross, but the ball just got stuck under his feet and just released behind him. He just couldn't get hold of it. And who else, James, other than Matty Taylor?
We need to stop doing this whenever he scores.
Well, I tell you what, Matty Taylor had a fantastic game in this one as well, just to rub salt in the wound. You know, for him to react from close range to get that first one. I mean, Vale's second goal coming from another mistake as well here. The goal coming from Funzo Ojo. Matt Macy closed down really well by Matty Taylor, and the deflected clearance just goes straight into the path of Ojo, who just had so much time and just placed his shot, and there was nothing Macy could do. He's just rooted to the spot. I don't think any Portsmouth player was really expecting anything from it. And they found themselves going into the break 2-0 down when they could have got something back. I mean, Colby Bishop had a chance from the spot, saved by Aidan Stone just before the break after Nathan Smith fouled Sean Raggett in the box. But at that point, you could really tell that it just wasn't Portsmouth's day. I mean, I'm not really sure what was said in the dressing room at half time by John Mousinho, but there must have been something because they kind of came out and they did enough. Just beyond the hour mark, Ellis Harrison's, he put in a really poor tackle on Conor Ogilvie, and gave, Kobe Bishop a second bite of the cherry here from the spot. And this time he managed to convert it despite Aidan Stone guessing the right way. And then Portsmouth would continue their turnaround 3 minutes from time through Michael Jacobs. He found the corner from close range after Rico Hackett's initial effort was blocked. To be honest with you, boys, I think Portsmouth were a lucky group of lads in this one. I was very impressed by Port Vale. And I think they've been fortunate, although I suppose it's in these moments that you start to see the quality that even if you play poorly, that you're still able to get something from this. And I think, to be honest, Port Vale will be pretty hard done by about the fact they weren't able to hold on in this one. But yeah, Portsmouth will certainly be taking that point all day long because they were not good yesterday. Not good.
I think this is their first fixture at Fratton Park in a league game since 1999, and I have a feeling I was at it, which is weird. But yeah, there we go.
I would have been 2 in 1999, so I wasn't there.
I would have been 3.
Yeah, I'm an old man, I know.
Fleetwood Town 2, Lincoln City 1. Pair of sides who I think we can pretty safely say will be meeting again in League One next season. Fleetwood winning this one with 1/2 goals from Jaden Stockley, one of their big January signings. I say 1/2 because he might be claiming the first goal that was 16 minutes in, although it does look to me like it ends up going in off Adam Jackson and actually down as an own goal.
Yeah, the second's worth 2 on its own.
Yes, definitely. Stockley actually has 2 opportunities cleared off the line in this game from first from Regan Poole and then from Adam Jackson. He eventually wins the game in the second half, diving at us from a corner. He just comes in like a train. You don't want to get in the way of that when he's coming at you. He's a big guy. Regan Poole did initially have Lincoln City level deep into first half injury time. Before that, Stockley winner. Quick mention on Fleetwood. I think they're building towards what could potentially be a very good 23-24 season. Scott Brown really proved his worth in his dugout in his debut season with the Cod Army. They are investing well into the squad, particularly into that front line. But there's also some youngsters in this team that are making key impact. I've really liked what Phoenix Patterson, Harvey McAdam offer, for instance. They've got their strong international link set up, that international football academy that's well set up and up and running. Remember, this was a team that just about survived last season with 40 points in 21-22.
Amazing what a season can do, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got 49 to their name this campaign now and still got 8 games left. It's a
they
club
feel like they're progressing as a club again.
Yeah,
in the right
it's a
direction.
club that are likely to leave the memories of 21-22 well behind them in the future, and good on them to that. Run through the League One table to wrap up this section. Plymouth Argyle didn't play. They're still top of the pile, though, with 80 points from 38 games. Sheffield Wednesday with that humiliating, quite frankly, defeat at Forest Green Rovers a second, 78 from 37. Ipswich Town would have loved that result, and Nailsworth, they're third on 75 from 37. Barnsley fourth on 72 from 36. There's all the talk at the minute, lads, that we could have 4 teams finish on 90 plus points with the way that top 4 are. And at least one of them won't go up. Oof. Top of League One is quite a brutal standard at the moment. Bolton Wanderers are 5th on 64 from 38. Derby County 6th on 64 from 38. Peterborough 7th on 63 from 38. Wycombe Wanderers 8th on 61 from 38. Portsmouth 9th on 58 from 38. Shrewsbury 10th on 55 from 37. Down at the bottom, Forest Green Rovers still got so much work to do, even despite that really enjoyable win today. They've got 26 points from 38. Cambridge United 23rd on 30 from 37. Morecambe 22nd on 34 from 39. Accrington Stanley 21st on 35 from 38. Oxford United, point per game average, 37 from 37. MK Dons, after that third straight win, 19th, 39 from 38. Burton now in 18th, 41 from 36. Let's drop down and take a look at the world's best 4th tier.
League 2.
League 2, what a significant day at the top and bottom of the division. We'll kick it off at the top, James, and start with the team that managed to win. Doncaster Rovers 0, Northampton Town 2.
Yes. How do you sum this up for Doncaster? It's not good, is it? But Northampton, let's start with them. They took a depleted squad to the Keepmo, and thanks, it has to be said, to another terrible afternoon of goal. I've written down a goalkeeping masterclass from Jonathan Mitchell. But
well, he was an ex-cobbler, wasn't he? I started thinking there might be something a bit about that.
Yeah, terrible mistakes again. And this is, I think, was it the 3rd weekend in a row that they've lost because of goalkeeping errors or had goalkeeping errors within their performance. But Northampton, yeah, they had 11 players out injured, I believe it was. Sam Shearing went out as the latest on Thursday with training injury. And, you know, he's latest to join this list of walking wounded. The situation's actually so bad that John Brady was forced to bring in a Canadian 24-year-old defender called David Norman, who'd been out with Vancouver Whitecaps. He'd been up in Scotland as well. So he's signed as a sort of an emergency cover. He may be a good player. I don't know. It's not someone I'm familiar with, but, you know, it just, when a player is signed at this stage of the season, it does tell you that there is a really pressing need for bodies in that lineup, in that team. But they needn't have worried. As I said, Doncaster offered very little. Another 2 goalkeeping clangers from Jonathan Mitchell meant a comfortable win for the away side. Doncaster themselves had 9 players missing. they hadn't lost them or anything. They're not like, they haven't gone like walkabouts. I think they assume they're injured or on international duty. Otherwise, there's a bit of a concern in Doncaster. Footballers are just going missing like that. But they did lose another 2 in this game as well. Cohen Lavery, James Brown limping out of the game to add to their woes. It was a poor performance, to be honest, from Doncaster. The good thing for Northampton is, despite all the bodies they've got injured, Mitch Pinnock, Louis Apire and Sam Hoskins are the 3 in attack, and those feel like a pretty good front 3 still. I think if you lost one of those, especially Sam Hoskins right now, they would be in a bit more trouble. But like I said, Mitch Pinnock opened the scoring, nice little 1-2 on the edge of the box, and his shot went straight through Jonathan Mitchell. Really, the goalkeeper should have done a whole lot better. Real awful piece of keeping. And then in the second half, Hoskins was literally gifted the ball from the goalkeeper, passed it straight to him, and then he could just run a few steps forward and drill it past him to make it 2-0. And that's it. I mean, there wasn't much else in the game. There weren't many other chances. And I think that's probably what's so frustrating for Doncaster, that they've played this match with not a lot between them and Northampton, but due to yet again more defensive mistakes, they've lost the game. And a shout out to Sam Hoskins, who's the first Northampton player to hit 20 league goals since Richard Hill did it in 1987.
Do you remember it?
And I don't actually. That is slightly before my time. 1987, I would have been
before your time. I didn't know it was a thing.
I'd have been 2. So
I'm being mean. Sorry,
that's mean. Quite following Northampton, but actually, I mean, it's a great stat and slightly worrying that it's taken that long for them to get a goal scorer who scored 20 league goals. I mean, that seems really weird to me, to have a club that gone that long without someone being able to score 20. I'm sure there's plenty of others out there. It just, for some reason, doesn't feel like correct. But anyway, more importantly, it's another 3 points and a great result given the results elsewhere for the Cobblers. They've moved up to second and a 3-point gap between them.
Absolutely.
And Carlisle.
Brilliant win for the Cobblers with 12 men, with Jonathan Mitchell helping them out to a victory through his old side at the Eco Power Stadium. And they'll love the results, as we mentioned, because of some of the other scores, Harry, such as Stevenage 1, Salford City 3.
Yeah, it's such a frustrating result for Stevenage. They're still faltering just 3 wins in 10, whereas it's 4 wins from the last 6 for Salford, which keeps them firmly in the playoff spots. Both sides started the game brightly and carved out a number of chances in the first half, but it remained goalless at half-time. Early in the second half, Salford striker Callum Hendry was lucky not to be booked or worse. He went down in the box after being blocked off by Dan Sweeney, and on his way back up he got into an altercation with Stevenage keeper John McCracken.
Very lucky boy here, I thought.
Yeah, there was no need for it, especially as McCracken's not even the one who's taken him down. Just completely lost his head, hasn't he? And like you say, very lucky to get away with it. And a few minutes later, the 2 of them were then involved again. McCracken appeared to be kneed in the head by Hendry, and he stayed down for a while. Given Stevenage's record with goalkeepers this season, I bet there was some serious nerves on that home bench.
Oh, blimey.
Thankfully, he was safe to continue with his head bandaged up. The absolute last thing they need at Stevenage is another injured goalkeeper.
Is there a record for how many goalkeepers used in a league season by any team? Do we know it?
They've got to be close.
If there is,
they're
they're definitely pushing it, aren't they?
They must be, yeah. What's he, number 7 now, Ed?
He's 6.
6. There you go.
Yeah, you're going to struggle to find more than that in a season, aren't you? And touch wood, it stays at 6.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can't think of any.
On 65 minutes, Salford went ahead. Stevie Mallon got his 3rd in as many games. He placed it home from the edge of the box following a short free kick routine. With 10 minutes to go, Salford then doubled their lead. It was a rare defensive mix-up at the back for Stevenage between Dan Sweeney and Max Clark, which allowed Callum Hendry to break into the box and finish it into the bottom corner. Stevenage almost provided a nervy ending to the game. Jamie Reid did really well on the right wing and played it through a crowded box to Luke Norris, who got his 10th of the season. And if I had any criticism for Salford in this game, it's that they didn't keep a clean sheet again. The last time they did was the 31st of January. But 2 minutes after that goal went in, a long throw from Liam Shepherd bounced in the box for Matt Smith, and he was able to fire home for Salford and secure the victory. Neil Wood described it as a low-quality game with high-quality goals, which I think is probably a fair assessment. But that's how these kind of games are going to be for the rest of the season. When you've got 2 sides with so much to play for, it is going to be scrappy. Like we saw with Stevenage's game against Carlisle last weekend, they're not always going to be the biggest spectacles because there's so much on the line for both teams. I think Steve Evans probably will have been frustrated though to see his team concede 3 at home. considering only Leyton Orient have conceded less at home this season than Stevenage have done. So yeah, hopefully an upturn in form for them. They've got a big trip to Northampton next weekend though, so again, they're not having it the easy way with their fixture list at the minute.
I'm glad you mentioned next weekend. All of the top 6 play each other.
Oh,
it's a big weekend, yep.
It's dribble bib time, isn't it? That's just mouthwatering.
Let's not jinx it. We're going to get 3-0 nils if we're not careful.
Yeah, I don't know if any of those teams are actually feeling too confident, mate, just because of other results, such as, David, Gillingham 1, Carlisle United 0.
I know this isn't a video, but you guys can't see the massive grin on my face right now. Gillingham making it 7 wins from the last 8 at Priestfield, and limiting Carlisle to just 1 shot on target all game. I can't believe I'm saying those words, boys. What a parallel to the first half of the season this was. Sean Williams getting the goal in the 90+4th minute, a volley that you kind of have to be a certain type of player to kind of take it from there and look as calm as he did. And if there's any player with that kind of experience that you want in that Gillingham lineup taking it, it was certainly him. There was not much really that Gillingham did wrong in this one. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Neil Harris as well. He went out there with an attacking lineup. He brought Dom Jeffries out of that lineup and replaced him with Aidan O'Brien. Stuck with that 4-4-2. And, even later on, kind of his substitutions were perfectly on point, bringing George Lapsley and Dom Jeffries on later on when he saw an opportunity to kind of get something. And I just think overall, Gillingham looked really impressive in this one. And I think, for me, this was probably Carlisle's worst or one of their worst performances this season. And I think that's sort of backed up by the assessment that Paul Simpson gave after the game, which frankly, very honest, but very damning. After the game, his interview, he said it was a horrible way to play for 90 minutes and it was the worst they'd played throughout this whole season. The interviewer asked them about whether they'd missed some creativity today. And he simply replied with, "We didn't do anything today. We didn't win our duels. We didn't pass the ball properly in any area of the pitch. And we certainly didn't do anything in the final third. And we weren't good enough today as a whole." If that isn't an honest assessment, then I don't know what is. Obviously, that
legend, any Paul Simpson,
it's just
can't mince his words. I like it.
No, he really did.
And actually, while you're talking about the manager, credit to Gillingham for not getting rid of Harris in that awful start of the season spell and realising that, they say a bad workman only blames his tools, but you've got to give him some tools to do his job. And they've finally done that. And look at the change, they're amazing.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think, the players that he has brought in clearly fit his system. They're clearly very hungry. And I think, I can't believe I'm saying this, James, but there are still people that are calling for Harris to be sacked at this point, even though we've kind of got ourselves.
David.
you might be spot on there, my friend. Or it's just something to moan about, isn't it? But regardless, yeah, there's no mistaking what Harris is doing at the moment, and Priestfield is just becoming an absolute fortress at the minute, and teams are a bit afraid to come there again, and that's quite a nice feeling compared to I don't think I've seen many seasons that are as stark contrasting as the first half we've had to this half, where we find ourselves, towards the top of the form table, something I was far from hoping or far from seeing towards the beginning of this year.
We wouldn't be football fans if we didn't have something to moan about, would we? That wouldn't be the case.
No,
Quick question. Does anyone want to get promoted from League Two?
They're doing their best not to, aren't they?
No one seems to be just grabbing it by the horns, and even with the playoff race as well. I mean, I'll get onto another side chasing promotion now. Hartlepool United won, Leyton Orient won. The first half, basically all Orient, but without any goals, and the scoring would eventually begin early in the second half. It's Paul Smith. We've seen him so many times this season drifting from the left-hand side to score. On this occasion, it's actually him out on the right. He cuts inside, drills a low left-footed shot right into the bottom corner. It does kind of look like he might either go through or just past Eden Pruti, the Hartlepool defender. Given the reaction that you see from Pruti after it goes in the net, he basically just collapses to the floor in disbelief that it's just gone past him. He's really annoyed about it. That is the only shot on goal that Orient actually have in the second half, though, and Hartlepool go and push for an equaliser. They do get it. It's a first-time shot from Connor Jennings after being set up by Josh Umera. It's a second to him since he arrived in January from Stockport County. Hartlepool could have won this, by the way, because a bit later on the game, they hit the woodwork twice in the space of 30 seconds. First from sub Wes McDonald, it's his low strike that hits the base of the post, and then it's from Dan Kemp, who puts his shot onto the crossbar. Leyton Orient just kind of seem to be strolling over the line at the moment. They've got this They've got this 9-game unbeaten run. There's 5 draws in that run. They've had such a big lead at the top of the league for so long that it's ultimately not costing them. There was a point earlier in the season we were looking at them, and they had such momentum that you almost kind of wanted the promotion could be wrapped up by this point. It's not, and although
do you think it's just that element of complacency settling in though, Ed? Just, they were kind of so far ahead.
Change has had a little bit of impact. They haven't got the same defence that they have. They've been without Dan Habber for a long period. I mean, Ed Turds has been alright. And then they've had a period without Paul Smith available, a period without Moncur available. I think they've been without Archibald recently as well. So it's not been the full strength 11 every single week. But even still...
Given that we know, though, that Hartlepool are now going to draw every game from now until the end of the season, is 40 points enough?
Well, we'll get onto that with the discussion, but I want to quickly keep on Orient. I can't help but notice that they don't seem to actually be impressing that many neutrals at the moment. There seems to be a lot of fans who come out of their games against Leyton Orient and they go, is that it? Is that what top of the league looks like? It's reminding me a little bit of Forest Green, if you remember, last season, actually, when they were so exceptional in the first half of the campaign, and it just went a bit flat. And it's kind of got some people maybe wondering if they are necessarily the title shoo-ins that Orient had previously looked on this occasion with the point. I will get on to Hartlepool, but I want to do that, James, after we merge it with a hugely significant result down at the very bottom of the table. Crawley Town 2, Rochdale 0.
Yeah, look, I said this in my D3D4 daily that this is a must-win for Rochdale, and they were wank, frankly. I mean, not to be blunt, but they were terrible.
Fair enough.
This is a must-win game for them, and I just don't. There was just nothing there. They hardly had the ball. I mean, fair play to Crawley, who really took the game by the scruff of the neck. They were on the front foot from the off, and they really pushed and pushed. And there's over 4,000 there, which is for Crawley an amazing.
They're doing a deal at the minute where I think it's £2 tickets, which is brilliant.
It's extremely
good. Very cheap tickets, really good.
4,700. I hope more of them come back as regulars because that club obviously has potential in the area to push on. I know they're near London, but they could. But this is just, it could have been worse for Rochdale, frankly. And I feel so sorry for them and their fans. But their manager, I don't think Jim Bentley was the right appointment at the time. I still don't think he's the right appointment. I think it's a bit late now, to be honest. He's got a decent team. Ethan Brearley won't be there next season. I don't think a club higher up the pyramid will snap him up. I just don't see, and I think Ado will probably go as well, but I just don't see them having enough, almost oomph, like they lack something to be able to get themselves going. And, they did beat Stevenage, didn't they? And we thought that might be a bit of a shot in the arm for them, but it's not turned out to be the case. And I have to say that Crawley have picked up really impressively in recent weeks. I think Scott Lindsay's doing a cracking job there. They've unbeaten in 4, winning 3 of them. And at this time of the season, that is massive. And they had games in hand. And often you say, I'd rather have the points on the board than the games in hand. But I think Crawley are the exception to that rule. They've done very, very well. But again, like Dom Telford scored, and it was a good goal. He sort of got the ball and turned. But that was poor defending. You can't let a player turn on a sixpence right on your 6-yard line and just smack it in. It was a really poor defending. A good finish from him, nonetheless. Then they get Conroy free at the back post to make it 2-0. Nanderson came through and hit the post. It could have been 3. I mean, I don't think Rochdale really threatened at all in the match. And to be honest, it's, them going down is almost a certainty now. They even if they'd won this, they'd have still been a fair way behind the chasing pack, the pack ahead of them. But they're now 10 points adrift, having played a game more than Crawley, who are their nearest team in terms of survival. They're 6 points behind Hartlepool. To me, they're done. They're done and dusted. I know Bentley doesn't want to say it, but you can see it in his eyes and you can see it in the way he holds himself in the interview. This is over for Rochdale, and it's a real shame. Crawley looking impressive, and I think it's going to be a tight race, but I think they'll stay up personally, and I think we'll see the current bottom 2 go down. And the only thing that will save Hartlepool is if they convert those chances that they create.
This is where I want the discussion with you about this, because Crawley, as you say, like with MK Dons in League One, run of favourable fixtures, taken full advantage of them, 10 points from a possible 12. That's an excellent return. And it's left the table... I don't want to get reactive again, but it almost looks a bit like it's maybe kind of decided. I really mark this as a significant weekend in the League 2 relegation battle with this game between Crawley and Rochdale and with Hartlepool hosting Leyton Orient. And you look at the situation down the bottom now, if we go from 20th and down, You've got Harrogate in 20th who have 38 from 37. You've got Colchester United in 21st who have 37 from 38. You've then got Crawley in 22nd who have 36 from 37. There's then a 4-point gap to Hartlepool in 23rd who have 32 from 38. And then Rochdale, as we mentioned, looking doomed, 26 from 38. Can anyone kind of raise belief that there could maybe still be a change down the bottom?
I mean, Hartlepool are playing better. That's the only thing you can say.
They're capable of getting points. I do think that.
Okay, so if we say...
But who drops off is my question.
Well, that's it. Who is it? Like, I worry about Colchester needing just to show... I mean, they obviously, they need to just get some wins on the board to get them out of it again, because they've dropped back, haven't they, after looking very much like they were going to be well clear. Harrogate I always worry about because they're a bit inconsistent, but they've got enough oomph, I think, in their games. They do just sometimes be able to pick up wins. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to see Hartlepool getting out of it.
I mean, in fairness, Crawley Town might have picked up recently, but if you look at their fixtures running into the end of the season,
that's what I'm wondering as well.
You know, they've got Mansfield Town at home, they've got Mansfield Town away, they've got Bradford at home, they've got Barrow as well, they've got Tranmere they need to play, they've got Colchester, then the big one on the 22nd where they face against Hartlepool. But they're not easy games.
That Colchester and Hartlepool one.
There's 4 or 5 games there that they're not going to be easy games. However you look at it, you know, if Hartlepool was still picking up some points here and there, those games are going to be huge for Crawley Town. And I think, you know, if anyone drops down there, it's probably going to be them. If you look at that fixture list, that's, you know, most of those teams are in the top half of the table.
It's that Hartlepool Crawley game on the 22nd. The question I have now is it going to matter by that point? This is what I'm wondering. Crawley have definitely picked up. It's really great to see, but they've had favourable games. And if they can now go and do this again against more competitive, difficult opposition, then that's a big mark for them. I still think Hartlepool
still got a difficult group.
Yeah, but Hartlepool can get
Swindon,
points, James.
Stevenage.
Hartlepool look like they can get points, especially at home. They've been. I've actually liked so much of their squad. We talked about O'Meara and how good he's been across the season. Jennings is having an impact. Dan Kemp's been brilliant since he's come in from January. They've got Jamie Sterry back. They've got Dan Dodds back. Those two are really important on the right side of the fence. So yes, they've got work to do, but I do actually think they can get points. And I'm asking, as we've said, does anyone drop off to let them go past? That's the question, really.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting end to the season, isn't it? I mean, it's very difficult to call.
It is. It is, but I feel like it's our duty to try and call it, and I don't think we've made a decision on it.
Hartlepool need to find a way of winning, and you know, as much as they're missing opportunities, and you're saying they're getting points, they're getting point each game, just a point, and that's not going to be enough.
No,
so
you are right.
They do need to win, and they have got some difficult games. You know, they're playing Stevenage, they're playing Swindon, they're playing Salford, they've got Barrow and Stockport away on the last day of the season, which, you know, maybe Stockport might need that to chance for automatic promotion. So it's going to be really difficult. They've got to win the games. We always say this, but it's the teams around you have to beat, and Crawley have gone and done that. MK Dons have gone and done that, and if you don't do it, you're screwed.
I thought that Dave Chandler could be the man to send Hartlepool down. I've not thought of that.
Would be a shame.
Ooh,
would be a shame. But the ownership at Hartlepool have got to look at themselves. They should never be in this position at all.
3 managers in the season, that's a mark on the owners. Incorrect decision to get in the replacement initially to replace Paul Hartley, and they're suffering their own pain at the moment. We mentioned Stockport, and I'll get onto them actually. Swindon Town 0, Stockport County 1. This was a frantic 32 minutes at the county ground. It was less than 40 seconds on the clock when Carl Noyle was played through into the box. Jacob Wakeling pushes him over. It's a penalty. It's a straight red card to Wakeling inside a minute of kickoff. Paddy Mann steps up to the spot kick. It is saved by Sol Bryn. And about a minute later, down at the other end, Russian Hepburn Murphy wriggles into space, goes down the penalty box. There's no penalty given, and Hepburn Murphy's booked a simulation. You can imagine what the Swindon Town fans in the crowd would have said after witnessing that sequence of events, and it's probably best that I don't repeat it here. The rest of this game is as one-sided as you can get. Swindon Town boys don't have a shot. At all. Not on target, not off target. 0 XG. 0.00 XG generated compared to Stockport's 1.58. Now, in fairness, they are playing with 10 men from basically the word go. So I can kind of understand that. Stockport's winner does eventually come later on. It's Ryan Crosdale, his first goal of the season. Bit of a surprise goal scorer, as he's normally the one who's actually sat quite deep in midfield, letting the others be more expressive. But he pushed forwards on this occasion to get on the end of a Ryan Rydell cross. I think it's fair to say that Stockport probably should have won this by more than just a 1 goal, but they do get the all-important points, and you can't knock that. They'll have been pleased with those results at Stevenage and Gillingham coming through. They're 3 points off fourth place Carlisle as it stands, 4 points off the automatic promotion places. Still in with a chance yet, I think you'd have to say. We're moving to the middle of the table, David. Barrow 2, AFC Wimbledon 1.
Yeah, Wimbledon getting the opener here 5 minutes in through Luke Jenkins, no relation, I might add, marking his debut.
Sure? You should claim it. I'd claim it if I could.
Sure. Marking his debut here for Wimbledon after he was called back from being on loan, I think in the National League South, was it? I think it was Haringabara or someone, maybe the Ishmael, I'm not sure, but he was called back on loan earlier this season, put the visitors ahead, 5 minutes in for his first goal, first professional goal, should I say. And then it wasn't until a little bit later, after mustering just one shot in the first half, Barrow found themselves level through Canavan, on the hour mark. He lost his marker at the back post and then headed in Ben Whitfield's corner into the empty net that was before him. And then Josh Gordon marking his return, first game he's played in for Barrow since January the 28th. And he marked his return with his 12th goal of the season and to be the goal to turn around this game for Barrow. Real good win for Barrow here, but you have to ask questions of Wimbledon now. They're just tumbling down the table.
They are so low on options, David. That is nowhere near their first 11. Nowhere near that.
Of course not. Yeah, and it's now 11 games without a victory. I understand they're so far down, but I feel like Jackson needs to there's got to be some sort of contingency. If you've not got your best personnel, you need to tactically plan for that. And I don't feel like he's been able to answer. Sometimes you get those injuries and it's hard to plan for those. Of course it is. They come out of the blue, but I feel like, as a manager, the ownership is on you to kind of come up with some ideas. And I just don't think they came up with anything in this game.
I think a big problem for them, though, on this occasion, David, is internationals. They had to play their second goalkeeper, Nathan Broom, because Nick Zanev is away with New Zealand. Chris Gunter is away with Wales, not as a player, as the staff, by the way. That would really annoy me if I'm a Wimbledon fan. That you're losing one of your experienced fullbacks to not even play for Wales, just to be part of the coaching team. That would really frustrate me. And then you're without Ali Al-Hamadi up top, who's away with Iraq, and he has been on fire for them since signing. So that's 3 key personnel missing there. And then you win it, and then, you're winning this game and end up losing it. They just seem to be coming up with new different ways to drop points at the moment, Wimbledon. It's frustration that we saw last year in League One with them.
Oh, no, for sure. But I suppose off of what you said, that's one game in isolation, isn't it? There's still another 10 in there without a victory.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's more. I feel like there's something this team need to bring. And I feel like there is more from this team. And I know they capitulated towards the end of last year. But I feel like, Wimbledon as a club, there's always something they tend to bring, and they always tend to keep themselves safe towards the end of the season. If Jackson can get them playing and get something, get a few points on the board, I'm sure they'll be fine. I don't see them moving anywhere towards the relegation zone, but I think that momentum building into next season is going to be huge. And they need to do something soon.
And they don't have that
momentum,
do they, at the minute? It's not good.
No, absolutely not.
No, not ideal. I mean, Wimbledon I've always thought was a club quite well known for its youth system, the products it produces, and there's a few in this team, and there's a few others that they have moved on. People like Ayub Assal, Jack Rodoni moved on at the start of the season. Assal moved in January, of course, going to Qatar. Not replaced. It seems to be a team sadly getting weaker at the minute, and for a side that you kind of wanted to maybe flirt with the playoff conversation this year, it's a really disappointing end to 22-23 for them. Harry, Colchester United 1, Tranmere Rovers 1.
Yeah, I think a point was probably the fairest result here. Although, like you were mentioning, Colchester are one of those that are still very much in this relegation battle. And from what I saw of them in this game yesterday, I'm not overly convinced that they're going to pull themselves clear anytime soon. Tranmere had the better of the game in the first half. Ian Dawes, obviously in as caretaker manager, moved towards more of a midfield diamond, and instead of having Josh Hawkes out on the wing, he deployed him down the middle, just behind the 2 strikers, which was a role that seemed to suit him a lot better than being out wide. He had so much more freedom with the ball, and he showed that with his assist for the opener. It was a perfectly hit ball over the top of the Colchester defence, which found Harvey Saunders, who knocked the ball around the on-rushing Kieran O'Hara and was able to tap into an empty net for his first Tranmere goal at last. I don't know if you've seen the highlights. I don't really think O'Hara did himself any favours with how far he came out of goal.
I was half expecting him to clatter into the ground. He seemed to, I think he's kind of hesitated, realised I'm giving away a penalty here, and that's what let Saunders go past him.
Yeah, he's come out too quickly. I know you've got to close down the striker in that situation, but as soon as Saunders touched the ball, there was no chance he was going to get himself back into position, and he just had so much time. He was able to take that touch, have a look around him before just tapping it into the back of the net. The rest of the first half was mostly uneventful, but the game did pick up in the second. On 50 minutes, Colchester had a penalty shout. A header back from Tom Davies was chased down by Samson Tavide. He appeared to be brought down by Joe Murphy just inside the box. Instead of winning a penalty, he earned himself a yellow for simulation. I think, having watched it back and seen it from a different angle as well, it probably was a penalty. The only counter argument you can make is that Tavide looked like he was already on his way down. But I mean, that doesn't tend to stop referees from giving them, and you've seen much less clear-cut penalties given. Like the one in the 65th minute of this game, Colchester got retribution. The ref points to the spot after Connell Hall went down in the box. It didn't look like a penalty to me. I don't know if you agree, but in getting up, having been fouled, Connor Hall went to punch the air, and instead of getting air, he got the back of Tom Davies, who, for whatever reason, decided not to go down. I think if he had gone down and if the referee had seen it, there likely would have been some intervention. I think Connor Hall is a very lucky boy to have stayed on the pitch after that. Noah Chilvers stepped up and put the penalty away. That's his 6th goal of the season, and makes him their top scorer, 2 clear of the second top scorer. So again, big problems for Colchester there, and that there's not a lot of goals in the squad. To the point where actually I'd forgotten that Tom Hopper had even gone there. He's got just 1 goal in 10 now. It really doesn't seem to be working out for him up front. And so, yeah, they're definitely not safe yet. Considering how, not unimportant's the wrong word, but considering it wasn't one of the most significant matches of the weekend, it ended up being a surprisingly hot-headed affair. And there were 13 yellow cards.
I was going to say, I've got the 2 teams up here, and I've just counted, and of the 22 starters, 12 got yellows.
Yeah, 5 for Colchester, 8 for Tranmere. And only one of those yellow cards was in the first half. So you can see how it picked up towards the end. I think refereeing decisions with those 2 penalty shouts sort of played their part in increasing the passion, if you will, in the end of the game. Yeah,
feisty affair, certainly down in Essex. You touched on it at the start of the episode, Harry. Tranmere's managerial situation. Do we have any update on the front runners? Any potential incomings?
No, nothing too concrete. I really have no idea if anybody's going to be named before the end of the season. It's looking like at the minute the favourite is Carl Robinson. I know a lot of people are quite keen on the idea of him coming in. Obviously, it didn't end up too well for him at Oxford, but he had 4 out of his 5 years there went really well, and he's got experience of getting out of League Two before. So I think for me at the minute, in terms of being realistic and being ambitious, he's probably my first choice. Some of the names that are being thrown around, like the Cowleys, for example, are less realistic. I think it was maybe a bit tongue in cheek. I've seen Wayne Rooney mentioned as well.
Jesus.
Just because of the geography.
Get Gerrard in as well, yeah.
So yeah, we might go in for Guardiola, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be happy with Carl Robinson. I like the look of John McGreal as well. He's a name that's being bandied about a bit, but to be honest, I'm completely in the dark. I've absolutely no idea. I'd like us to get somebody in before the end of the season. Especially we've got a game on Friday night against Harrogate at Prenton Park. It'd be brilliant to bring out a new manager in front of a big crowd at that one.
Yeah, I've done a few of your Friday nights at Prenton Park before, and it is quite good. It's a good incentive to do that.
Yeah, it would be absolutely brilliant, and I do think it would get people in, because one of the big issues that we've had this season is just attendance is falling away. A combination of the results and the football being played, along with external factors, have just pushed people away, unfortunately. And that's why they need to be part of why they need to be careful with their appointment. They do need to get somebody in who's going to excite fans and make them want to come back next season.
I do look forward to seeing Kane Hemmings finally appear in the squad again, because he has been out for quite a long period now.
Yeah, it sounds like he's getting close, so that's one that I've heard updates on. I think he's been back out on the grass this week, so he's a possibility for next weekend, and yeah, he can't come back soon enough, in my opinion.
Certainly can't. Two more games to mention in League Two. Grimsby Town 1, Walsall 1. Grimsby Town's opener is a belter from Bryn Morris from the edge of the box. Walsall's equaliser, much more messy. It's eventually bundled in by Donovan Daniels. These two, they're playing each other next season in League Two. I've got no doubt about that. They're going to end up in the middle of the pack. I've seen comments from Grimsby Town fans criticising the season they've had, and I cannot wrap my head around it. Very confusing. You have had a historic FA Cup run to the quarter-final stage as a fourth-tier side, and you're going to comfortably stay up as a newly promoted team. I would say that's all in all a pretty good season, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think that the ambition at the start of this year was just to consolidate themselves, don't go straight back down, and then you've got this summer to build, haven't you?
Look, I would understand that maybe, yes, in the league results or strings of league results have been frustrating, but I remember talking with DN35. Grimsby don't tend to finish much higher than they do now in League Two. It's been a long time since we've seen towards the top half of this level. So it is progress, and I do believe in the idea that Grimsby long term could aspire towards pursuing the third tier. I do like to believe in that. And a draw with Walsall yesterday at Blundell Park. And the other game to mention in League Two, Mansfield Town 0, Sutton United 0. A couple of 0-0s in a row for the Stags, who just seem to stop scoring at the moment. Bit frustrating for them because they've got quite a lot of home games left for the rest of the season and not really taking advantage of them in their pursuit of playoffs and automatics. League 2 table to finish. Leyton Orient lead the way. They have 74 points from 37 games. Northampton Town now up to second on 69 from 38. Stevenage third, 67 from 37. Carlisle United fourth on 66 from 38. Stockport County fifth on 63 from 38. Salford City sixth, 62 from 38. Bradford City are 7th on 61 from 37. Mansfield Town 8th on 58 from 37. Sutton United 9th on 56 from 38. And Barrow in 10th on 55 from 38. Down at the bottom, Rochdale looking in real trouble. 24, 26 from 38 games. Hartlepool United 23rd on 32 from 38. Crawley Town after a third win in 4, 22nd on 36 from 37. Colchester United 23rd. That's not a number, Edward. What are you talking about? 23rd. Let me do that again. Colchester United 23rd, 37 from 38. Harrogate Town 20th on 38 from 37. That is going to wrap up this episode to wrap up the end of March. We're in the running, boys. Who's excited for it? I mean, none of our teams are really that involved in it, are we? Now think about it.
I mean, I feel like that's thankful.
No, true. You know, certainly from yours and mine perspective, yeah, I'm quite thankful actually.
This year, compared to last year, I'm far more grateful.
Oh yeah. James might think otherwise, to be honest, with the situation Oxford are in, but it'll be thankful that Accrington and Morecambe are currently as bad as they are at the moment. Let's just put it that way. Thank you to both of you, to all of you, for your contributions to this episode.
Thanks, man.
Thanks very much.
Join us again next week for more from the world's best third and fourth tiers. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
You got them relegated already.
23rd. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what that was.
Is that your subtle way of saying you think they're going to get out of the relegation zone this year? Like they're 21st up third.
They're 23rd still.
They're somehow going to get relegated and stay in League Two.
Yep. Apparently so.